real benefit of having a session for treasurers was what we had to say to each other. So I'm not the expert here. I'm convening, I've got some ideas. If we want to go a completely different direction, that's fine with me. I prefer it be more of a conversation than a lecture, if that's all right with you. But to get us started, I thought I'd take a look at some of the roles and responsibilities. And this is not definitive, it's not even necessarily complete, but it's the things that I found that I've been doing. And I think the most important responsibility we have, and if I were to redo this slide, I'd take out the word sense, create and maintain transparency and confidence in the financial matters of the church. People are giving the church money. They need to have confidence that it's cared for, that it's recorded properly, that it's reported. That's our primary responsibility as treasurers. We also need, of course, to keep track of the financial records, deposits, disbursements. So deposits, disbursements, payroll, talking about unrestricted and restricted funds. We generally assist in building the budget, report to the board, report to the separate commissions. Do you have commissions, committees? I'm going to use commissions. That's what we use. And insurance calculations and all kinds of things that we help with in conjunction with payroll. The last thing is the one that I've had most trouble with, maintaining the filing system of church records. I don't know about you, but when I walked into the church treasurer's office, when I took over, it was a pile of boxes and papers and everything else. Some people know that. So what we're going to do is talk a little bit about what do we need to keep, what don't we need to keep, how do we need to keep it, and I'll appreciate your input too. As far as I know, when I became church treasurer, I went through some brethren websites and documents and tried to find some brethren help, Church of the Brethren help, and didn't come across very much. So maybe working together we can build a little database of something. In the interest of transparency, and we talked about this last year, we talked about internal controls, and many people said, we have a small church, we have 50 in our church, we have 60. How can we have segregation of duties in such a small church, especially when there are so few who are accountants or CPAs? Well, the duties that we need to separate can be divided among many different people, not all of whom have to have degrees in accounting. Most of you have a treasurer, most of you have treasurers in your churches, financial secretary, okay, or an administrative assistant or general secretary. Do you have separate offering counters? Okay, church officers, board chair, etc. Commission chairs, and some of you may have reviewers who come and review the accounting, or outside auditors who come in. That's kind of expensive. But all of these people can play a part. If we're separating duties, they can play a part. For example, I'm the treasurer. One of my jobs should be signing the checks. I do not sign checks. I prepare the checks, and then we have 5 check signers in our congregation. And what does a check signer do? Looks at the invoice, looks at the voucher to see it's been approved, looks at the check, makes sure it's the right amount, and signs it. You don't need to be a CPA to do that. Anybody in the congregation can do that. That's an extra pair of eyes on your accounting processes. So you can be creative in how you divide up the duties even in small congregations. In terms of deposits, what do? You receive and receipt the deposits, maybe not you, financial secretary, the administrative assistant, somebody needs to do it. Somebody needs to make the bank deposit. Please don't let it be you. Don't ever touch the money. If you're recording transactions and reconciling the bank account, do not touch any checks or cash. Have somebody else put it together for you. Or if you are doing the deposits, get somebody else to reconcile a bank account. Okay, you need to divide that up for your own protection. Divide it up. We need to record contributions for individual contributors, and that's by the IRS. We need to make those records, and send periodic contribution statements. 2 reasons. So the contributors know, and so that we know if we've gotten it right. If we make a mistake on somebody's contribution statement, you think they'll let us know? I gave 300, not 200. And then we can go back and start to see where the mistake was. So this is another way of checks and balances. Everybody who contributes can help with the internal controls. And reconciling the bank accounts, please do it immediately when you receive the bank statement. In disbursements, we need to make sure that each disbursement is authorized. You should not be able to authorize any disbursement if you're the treasurer. Somebody else needs to authorize that disbursement. But if you do authorize a disbursement, you will not sign the checks. Okay? Or if you do both, do not record them. Get a financial secretary to do the accounting. See what I'm saying? You can find ways to divide up the duties. One of the best things that I've found is that if you prepare a report of distributions for the responsible parties, what I'm saying is in our setup we've got 8 commissions. And each quarter I prepare a list of all the disbursements from that commission that they have been responsible for, so that they can check to say, oh yes, yeah, that's right, that's right. There we are with internal control, making sure there aren't discrepancies or problems. And again, the bank account, reconciling the bank account is important. This all helps with transparency. When the congregation knows that there are several people working on things, dividing it up, checking on each other's work, it's not because we don't trust each other. It's because we're helping each other to do a good job and not make mistakes. In accounting, we say that when you cannot have segregation of duties, you really need to trust the person who is responsible. So you've got a huge burden placed on your shoulders. And start inviting people. Each Sunday, have somebody count with you, especially when there is cash there. Yeah, have somebody count with you. You might want to have somebody reconcile the bank statement who is not a member of your family. Well, then in addition to transparency, one of the things we run into quite a bit is how do we maintain all these records? And I was talking with Glenn just before about what kind of software he uses. And this came up last year at our meeting, talking about what kind of software can you use for churches. Glenn and I use QuickBooks. Any other QuickBooks users? Okay. And is that working out okay for you? And even with the restricted funds and such? Okay. What else do other people use? Quicken. Okay. It's similar to QuickBooks. Same kind of setup. Anybody else? Excel.
We had been using Peachtree.
Okay.
But the CPA in the church was the only one that understood what was happening. And we are now in the process, when I go back, of converting, I think it's Power Church. I'm not sure. So.
Okay, good. Our church uses Power Church. When I came, I was originally treasurer and used Power Church there. When I left, I started using QuickBooks for the business and then took back QuickBooks because I was more familiar with it. These are 5 that I looked at, and I'll show you the resource at the end. There's a website where you can go to compare different software packages. Different prices, of course. CDM is pretty expensive. Church Windows, depending on what modules you get with it, can be expensive. Power Church is not bad. I think they're Power Church Plus now is where they are. It's not too bad, and we have used that, and I've heard several good things about that also. Shelby is not inexpensive, and Shepherd Staff. Now, all of these 5 combine both the accounting part, the financial record-keeping part, and the church membership part. QuickBooks doesn't do that well. We can't keep attendance on QuickBooks. Power Church keeps attendance, keeps track of the skills and talents inventory, what people are willing to usher, which ones are willing to work in the nursery, etc. These will do both that and the accounting, so that you assign an envelope number to a giving unit, and you record their contributions right in the same software. All of these, all 5 of these that I looked at, allow you to move an individual, and this is kind of outside of the accounting function, but move an individual from one unit to another. For example, you have a child that's grown up in the church and is in the giving unit that is that family. You can move that individual then out of the family as a separate giving unit when they become independent. You can print color directories and that kind of thing. You can track attendance, the volunteer and skill inventories, and special events, birthdays, anniversaries, etc. And that's the membership side. On the financial side, they will all allow you to manage multiple funds, unrestricted, restricted. They prepare an unalterable audit trail. So you can't, even if you make a check and delete it, you can't delete the trail that says you made a check and deleted it. That will remain there. They allow you to do either fixed or variable budgeting. Fixed meaning divide the total amount for the year by 12, or we spend for Vacation Bible School in June is the variable budgeting, so they'll allow either. Allows you to track the pledges, and you can even reassign envelope numbers. This has been a headache for me for years because we'd lose the record of giving if we reassigned the envelope number. Well, I didn't want to buy more and more. You can't buy envelopes number 2, 14, 37, 28. You know, you have to buy a series. So that's always been a problem. Here you can save the data for the person who used to have the number, reassign the number to a new member. What's different in these packages, and I'll give you the website where you can see which ones do which. Mostly, well, some of them will allow you to do several congregations, or maybe the congregation and the cemetery separately. Some of them provide a greater interface with the internet, where people can register online, or once you prepare the calendar, you can post it to the web. More receive donations and contributions over the web. So a lot of it has to do with how much interface there is with your internet. Not all of them that we saw previously will help you with payroll, and we all know that clergy payroll is different from your regular payroll. QuickBooks still wants me to withhold unemployment on my clergy, and they keep telling me I have an error. No, I don't have an error. And sales tax reports, I don't know, does anybody in here have to deal with sales tax? Do you have any unrelated business? Okay, that's good. Makes it easier. Okay, let's move on to my current challenge, creating a treasurer's manual. How many of you, when you became treasurer, the old treasurer said, here's the manual of everything you need to know? Job description, location of all the documents.
Just a cardboard box.
Oh, you're lucky. Mine, yeah. We get all manner of information, don't we? So this is my challenge, and I haven't done this. I'm in the process. That's why I do these sessions, so I know where I'm going to go. Now, I've got my outline for what I want in my treasurer's manual. Articles of incorporation. This is what I'm making for my own manual. I want this in a book. Whenever I go to a meeting, I've got it with me. When I go to board meeting, I've got it with me. And when I get run over by a bus, the proverbial bus, somebody can walk in and say, oh, here's her treasurer's manual. All will be well. Okay? These things are the things you need to have, because the Articles of Incorporation will tell what happens. The 2 reasons they're important. One for the IRS. The Articles of Incorporation will state your mission. And hopefully your mission is stated in very broad terms, because anything that you do that is unrelated to your mission, the church, yes, the church's mission, not the treasurer's, the church's mission, anything you do unrelated to the church's mission, you pay income tax on, and likely sales tax, if it draws any money. So you want to know what that is in your articles of, as stated in your Articles of Incorporation. The second thing is Articles of Incorporation usually tells what happens to the assets of the organization if it's dissolved. And that's always a good thing to have available to know what that is. Any bylaws, this constitution and bylaws and tax-exempt certificates you should have available. Policies. How many of you have a gift acceptance policy? Good, good. How many have investment policies? Excellent. Document retention. This came up last year, and so I did a little bit more work on document retention to see what we could do. Special offering policy. The reason I put this one is we have a special offering policy, I think, at our church. It resides in Dick Harshbarger's head. You have any people who hold the policies in their heads? Get them written down. Because when those people aren't around to ask, then what do you do? Get it documented. And then some documentation of the budgeting process. And we had a lot of talk last year about gift acceptance, so I want to talk some about that today. Well, let's finish up with financial information first. In the Treasurer's Manual, an annotated chart of accounts, something that suggests what each of those little descriptive phrases mean, especially descriptions of temporarily and any permanently restricted funds. We create those temporarily restricted funds, and then they stay on the books, and nobody knows what they're for and how do we spend them. It's harder with the permanently restricted funds. Does anybody have any endowment funds? Yeah. Do you know what they're for?
I know, but it does.
Does anybody else know? Yeah.
No, another thing I would suggest is that for every restricted fund, you have a commission assigned to oversee that fund, so you know who is in charge of.
Exactly. What she said is for every restricted fund, whether temporary or permanent, you have a commission who oversees that. Now that commission chair will also be the one who signs off on the disbursements from it. So you've got somebody else authorizing the disbursement. Actually, we've done that with our entire budget. There's somebody responsible for every single line on our financial statements. And whoever's responsible has to authorize disbursements. Property Commission does all the expenses for the building, signs off on them. I will not pay a bill that does not have an authorization. What I've done with EFTs for like BBT pension and that kind of thing is I have the PMPC, personnel, PMPC chair, whatever person that is, sign for the year, for the approval, for the amount, because at budget time we know what it's going to be every month. Same for the health insurance. We know what it's going to be every month, so I have her sign off on the automatic fund. Now, I don't do any online bill pay because in our congregation we need 2 signatures on every check, no matter the size. 2 signatures on every check, not me. Okay? And so my bank can't figure out a way to have 2 people authorize a disbursement. So I'm not doing online bill pay. I like having enough people know what we're doing. It's the transparency. Current year and prior year budgets are good to have. People are always saying, how much have we spent? How much did we spend last year? Current year and prior year financial statements, your board minutes, stewardship commission minutes, and I'm going to talk about an annual calendar of activities. How many of you have already done that? In January I do this, in February I do that. I should have a long time ago. I keep getting taken by surprise. Darn, forgot to do that again. So this is the reason I do these sessions.